We are firing on all cylinders.
Recorder. Okay, this is what you call commitment. Commitment to the cause.
We just landed. You know what I mean? We just after a week of travel, we just landed. I was like, damn, we gotta hit the stew. You know what I'm saying?
Phil is trying to put strain on my marriage. Weekend's finally time I get to spend time with my wife, but no. Phil's like, oh, why don't we record an episode? This is how much we love you.
All on your own. You don't need my help in that department. Please.
This is how much we love y'all. All right. Do I have all my things ready? You see, the benefit is we're recording this during the day. A natural light, man. The video of this is gonna be fire. I can see every single pimple, Phil.
On who? Me? I ain't got no pimples. Fine boy, no pimple.
Drop skincare routine, king. Philip. Are we going to have a country on Monday? What's happening?
That's literally a conversation I had yesterday. It just hold your horses because I had okay, let's get in. So I had a dinner, right? I had a dinner with some respectable individuals that wanted to come into Zimbabwe, and I was just like, yeah, just a heads up.
Don't come on Monday.
The days you guys have chosen, little tricky. So if you wouldn't mind just, laying off for a while, that might be advisable. So they've also got a son who was born in Zim, but has never come back to Zim.
You're recording, right, Phil? The video.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, go ahead.
So they've got a son who's never come to Zim, who hasn't come in a very, 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 very long time. And then the son, after hearing what I'd said, was like, yeah, that ain't happening. That homecoming trip you guys have planned for years and years and years, yeah, not happening. And I was like, oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Oops. But I was just trying to be honest. I was just letting y'all know. He said 31, so on the 31st, just keep your wits about you. And there's been times where internet might have gone. And also, that's why we're recording this podcast, because there might not be internet on Monday. And then we'll have to do it. Dan, do you remember that episode we did when we had no internet?
Yes.
And we're just like speaking into the ether. Like it was more like a therapy session. We're just like, we're recording this. We don't know if you all are going to hear this. But just
you have to understand. So Phil and I used to live together, and the last time that internet was cut in this country, allegedly.
No, remember. There's too much WhatsApp. There's too much WhatsApp videos being shared and killed the internet. That was the issue. Remember?
Yeah. You guys were sending big videos, and and we just recorded, and we're like, who knows if this is even going to be uploaded, or if we still have anyone to upload to. That was, do you know what, Phil? That's an episode that one day should go into a documentary.
It really should. We've documented the culture. When people look back, at least, we've got some moments in time. Moments in time.
One day I need to look back because it was raw emotion. You know what I'm saying? Anyway.
It was raw stress. That's what that was.
Anyway, let us get into it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is an emergency episode of the podcast that we are putting together for y'all's consumption. So welcome. We are not going to waste too much time. I have to ask. No, in fact, I'm not even going to ask. We're going to dance. Yay! Everybody gather roll.
Now me that guy and feel charred, baby bringing the fun. With the podcast vibes, we not stop till the morning sun. Every episode got me laughing, can't control my smile. Talking about skills and their unique style. From Zimbabwe to the world, they spreading good vibes, keeping it real and entertaining.
Hey.
They're on the rise. Two bro Twimbos. Bring the heat to the floor.
Hey.
Everybody get guy and feel charred in control. We gonna keep moving to the podcast flow.
We know you missed it.
Yeah. We gonna keep moving to the podcast flow. Yeah.
Welcome back, Phil. Welcome back to your favorite country in the whole world. How's it feel? How's your time away?
It was good productive, man. It was hectic. I've just got meetings about meetings. You know, like when you do a week of like back to back to back to back to back to back to backs, and now you've got to summarize all the back to back to back to back to back to back backs, and you realize you've become really reliant on AI tools. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I wasn't taking minutes in those meetings. Damn it.
Actually, this is great because me having this conversation with you has shown me that this is on the wrong. There we go. On the wrong channel. And this would have proved a problem for our producer. Say something for me there, Phil.
You're dumb.
Excellent. We are back. We are back. Ha ha. We are live. We eating. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Another episode. We know the streets been clamoring. The streets been clamoring because, this week was years long. This was a very long.
We're in the 60th of this week right now. We're in the 60th of this week.
Just to give a little bit of information, just a peek behind the curtain, if you will, how I keep in touch with things that we might want to talk about on the podcast. So we do have a producer who puts together talking points from us. But like I normally, if I see things that's happening, I'll save it. I might write a quick note down, or I'll just like it if it's on Twitter, or bookmark it if it's somewhere, whatever the case is, just to save it so that, at the end of the week, sort of review, like, what are the things that we want to talk about. Another great source of things to talk about is stuff that we talk about in the Patreon podcast, Patreon WhatsApp group. So, that's how we find out what are we going to talk about this week. What are we going to share our loquacious wit on?
Loquacious.
Indeed.
Today's word of the day, loquacious.
It means looks vivacious. Anyway, the point is, this week, it was a very, very, very long list. Do you realize, Phil, that the Saratoga thing was this week?
Yeah, dude, the Saratoga, there's the Stephen A. Smith, there's the leaked, there's the what's it called again? The secret group on Signal. There we go.
Oh,
there's the Signal group.
That's an hour worth of conversation right there, which we may just have to forego because there's so much that happened this week. So, anyway, let's actually.
I think that should be the new name of the show. This week and this year.
let's up the energy.
Good to go.
Are you ready?
Good to go.
Are you
good to go?
There's no time. That's all you get. There's no time. All right.
Sound a big thing, them.
All right. Yeah. All of that. The usual.
Let me hear a drum.
Yes. All right. Anyway, back at it. So, Phil, there's no time. Let's get into it. So, I want us to recognize some Zimbabweans doing big things. Big things, Phil.
Shout out to the equalizer against Nigeria.
Hey, big up the Zimbabwe national football team. Made some Nigerians crash out this week. They were upset, Phil. They were upset because they were like, how could we not beat Zimbabwe, yo? But yeah, we drew 1-1 with Nigeria. It still leaves us bottom of the group, and mathematically we still do have a chance to qualify for the World Cup. But from what I'm told, thanks to a very helpful TikTok video I watched courtesy of Sean, shout out Sean. Look, it's not looking good, bruv. But at least we made it difficult for Nigeria as well. Topping the group is Benin, funnily enough.
What's a drew with early in the week, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, same group, Phil, that has Nigeria, South Africa, a couple of other biggish names. But yeah, we are bottom of the group. But there's still hope. There's still I
bottom of the group, but top of my heart. That's all that matters.
Bottom, but a top also. Anyway,
topping from the bottom is key. You always got to top from the bottom.
We've got some Africans to celebrate this week. Phil, do you know who is currently the president of the International Olympic Committee?
I do. Oh, look at this wide angle. Now you see too much of my room. I do indeed know Dan because I used to report to her.
Well, did you know that the very first female president of the International Olympic Committee is former decorated Olympian Zimbabweans Kirsty Coventry? Congratulations. We know that you will take the amazing work that you did in the Ministry of Arts and Culture and Sports here in Zimbabwe and replicate that very work in the International Olympic Committee, and we know that you will leave it better than you found it.
I'm just gonna slide off frame. I don't want to be part of this.
Pushing positivity here, Phil.
Okay.
And congratulations to Kestmo Coventry.
Costanza, as we call it in the streets. Honorable Costanza.
Of course, now that she's going to be taking on this role, she had to step down from her role as the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. And,
Who is our new Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture then? Who do we now report to?
as you know, Phil, this is not a political podcast and we shall not be commentating on political appointments. So we move swiftly along. Want to give another shout out to another prominent Zimbabwean by the name of Strive Masiwa, little known. He needs our support. If you've got a little bit of money to send his way, please do.
Please use EcoCash *1.
So this week on the 24th of March, it was announced that Strive Masiwa was partnering with NVIDIA to build Africa's first artificial intelligence factory. NVIDIA, well known for making its way to the moon with stock prices. Yeah. So Strive Masiwa's Cassava Technologies and NVIDIA have partnered to make this. It will be happening. It's starting off in South Africa. June this year, June 2025.
As a patriotic son of the soil, I'm sure Zimbabwe is in the plans. I'm sure, obviously.
Coming up next, we've got Egypt, Kenya, Morocco, and Nigeria.
Okay, Zimbabwe is because we we last.
Yeah, I think it's alphabetic. It's alpha. Yeah, it's
So
South
and then continue.
Africa. Obviously, use the surname. So Africa A first, and then we move on to Egypt. A-E-O-U. So A Egypt. Then Kenya. Then Zimbabwe is coming. It's coming.
Oh, so we're enlisted in this initial round.
No, we were not. But obviously, they can't put all the information out in the first press release, guy, because they are
there's a word limit.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't,
Plus, AI Yacho is processing. My GPUs are melting. So anyway, the point is, Zimbabwe's very own Strive Masiwa and NVIDIA have announced this partnership that is going to take Africa by storm, as our very first AI factory is going to be operating on the cutting edge of AI technology here in Africa. What is an AI factory, you may ask? That is a great question. Well, this is something that was put together by the visionary CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang. An AI factory is basically, it's a space that has all the equipment needed to manage a complete AI lifecycle. What does that mean? Well, raw data enters and trained AI emerges. What does that mean? It streamlines the development of AI systems by bringing together data pipelines, algorithm development, and model experimentation into one optimized ecosystem. What does that mean?
You just read. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sorry, please continue to explain.
It means that companies can iterate faster and more securely, turning AI concepts into reality with unprecedented efficiency. I don't understand what's confusing you.
This right at the start. Have you watched
Congrats on launching a new startup. So what does your company do? We're a paradigm-shifting next-gen disruptor on the cutting edge of AI and cloud computing. I don't know what that means. Basically, we capture synergies between deep learning, quantum frameworks, and hyper-personalized automation. Does that mean something to people? It's all about providing holistic end-to-end solutions that optimize workflows and enhance decision-making possibilities. Okay. So how do you do that? First, we prioritize frictionless integration and seamless connection across verticals. But what do you do? Really just finding the crossroads between innovation and transformation. What does your company make? Do you make something? We leverage SaaS and machine learning to disrupt traditional markets. Are you selling something? What do you sell? We're all about revolutionizing fintech through a cloud-native ecosystem by harnessing big data and combining it with NLP. Oh my God. Really, we're just driving a holistic digital transformation at scale and doing things in a more modern way. Stop! Tell me in actual words what your company does. Oh, we're just an exact copy of ChatGPT with a different color scheme and logo. Thank you. Jeez. So is your company making any money? God, no. We're going bankrupt within 6 weeks.
Okay. Obviously, that does not apply to Cassava Technologies or NVIDIA. But if you would like to know what this will bring to Africa, well, it localizes AI development within Africa, reducing dependence on foreign cloud platforms. And it will democratize research and experimentation.
If you're playing buzzword bingo at home, now's the time to take 17 shots.
Now, of course, we don't want everyone to get ahead of themselves. While the infrastructure breakthrough must be matched with talent, development, research, investment, and precise policy frameworks, it is really something that will build a foundation for the future. So we're looking forward.
Dan, there's no way you're reading.
I'm literally reading the press release that they put out for.
So they use ChatGPT to create the press release
No.
for ChatGPT like product. What's going on here?
I don't understand. I gave you like 5 definitions of what an AI factory is. I don't understand what's confusing you. Anyway, congratulations to Zimbabwe for being the brainchild behind putting this AI factory in other African countries. Okay.
Yes, much like all other good Zimbabweans, we build it here and then we leave the country and make money outside. That's what we do.
Basically,
like
you start the process in Zim. By the process, I mean getting born and then applying for a passport. Then,
Yeah, and then the moment that critical skills visa comes through, you're out of here, bruh.
Anyway, no, I mean we're being a little bit shady, but shout out to the first Africa's first AI factory. We lagging behind. We're
What
just
does
watching.
that mean?
It means.
Then are you
Phil,
telling us with our qualified minister of ICT, we are lagging behind? I sincerely doubt that. First and foremost, how dare you?
I will have no comments on any ministers in this country. Also, huge shout out to Rachel Chinouriri. We've mentioned her several times. She's in the middle of this Sabrina Carpenter tour, and she is getting more streams of her music now than she had when she launched the album. So people are beginning to discover Rachel Chinouriri, and it's very dope. Shout out to her.
I played the breaks of that album. I love that album so much.
Very nice. What a devastating turn of events, Rachel Chinouriri. Okay, listen, let's follow up quickly from our last episode. Our last episode was recorded outside of our usual recording situation. It was different locations, but we still managed to put together some great conversations. First of all, I would like to share with you, Phil. I have it on my phone, and I'm just realizing that my phone is not available for me to access. So if you recall, Phil, we had a conversation about what filter one would use to describe Zimbabwe. It was just a light conversation, nothing too deep. But some of you may be aware that we have little clips that we take from this podcast and share on our social media platforms. Please follow us on everything. It's just Two Broke Twimbos on everything. Doing quite well on TikTok and even Instagram this week. I was surprised. I was like, wait, why am I getting so many notifications? I was like, oh, okay, cool. Anyway, my point is, I shared this little clip on our Instagram, and someone responded. Now, the person who responded is a visual artist, and I don't know if they want me to share their name. I will share it anyway. Ngoni Zashe Chinara, aka Zash.
You're such a snitch.
That's what Zash says.
Shout out to.
Remember, the question is, what filter would you use in film or television to show that we are now in Zimbabwe? I've actually given this a lot of thought. Visual elements that evoke nostalgic feelings amongst Zimbos. Copper elements blend well with skin tones and a hint of sci-fi green. Red for the earth. But no matter what I try, though, the grade ends up looking like dirty USD. I was like, you know what? Someone has actually put a lot of thought into this. I told them, listen, I'm sharing this on the podcast. So I thought I'd share that very quickly. Something else that we spoke about last week, Phil. This has gone viral, by the way. Our definition of viral. I know others have other definitions, but our definition of viral is, more people saw it than.
Our mother messaged about it and said, "Why are you guys making noise on TikTok?"
People who don't follow us have seen it, and people who don't know who we are now commenting. That's my definition of viral. So, as you know, I have something.
That's a very low bar. That's a low bar.
So we also had one of the clips that I posted on the TikTok and the Instagrams and everywhere else was we were congratulating the African Finder on his brand ambassadorship deal with South African tourism. But we also raised a valid question. Why did Zimbabwe not scoop him up? Because, I mean, he's showcasing Zimbabwean spots. Phil even made mention to the fact that, you know what, he probably has a lot of followers outside Zimbabwe. And he's probably generated a lot of interest in visiting Zimbabwean spots. So surely Zimbabwe's tourism companies or anyone really in Zimbabwe would be interested in him promoting Zimbabwean tourism. Anyway, little did I know this was a controversial take. Now, while most of the people on TikTok who probably understood the concept of what we're saying, which was, congratulations, we're happy for you. Why did not Zimbabwe also give him a bag? many people seem to misunderstand our intent. And they felt that we were saying, why did he get the bag from South Africa? And so some people were, I believe the lingo the children are using is cooking us to say, why are you guys haters? Why should he not get money from South Africa? Why are you guys trying to make him not get a bag from SA? And I just want
reading for comprehension is a skill. I think I gotta make this a clip, Dan. I think you should make this a clip, make it a part 2. I'm looking at the camera. You guys are really dumb.
this is not going to be a clip.
Listen, process thought, think, contextual information, respond, type. Okay?
Anyway, yeah, so just hey, if you are joining this podcast because you came angry that these Zimbabweans are trying to remove a bag from the African Finder, and you are here to listen to the next episode so you can find something else to get angry about, welcome. There will be several things that you will probably find in this episode, but I would like to advise you that, hey, have you considered downloading a calming game onto your phone so that you can do that instead of doom scrolling?
See, look, right now, so I don't get angry with you. You see?
Phil is busy playing games instead of listening to this or being actively engaged. Phil, that's something else.
I'm playing Toon Blast.
We need to reduce the stimulation that we are providing to our brains. You cannot be we cannot be doing something on our phone while also watching a movie. It's not right. Reduce stimulants, increase your active engagement and whatever.
Outpulence. Reduce stimulants, increase outpulence.
Exactly. You got it. Anyway.
Word. I feel you, son. I feel you.
Some more major feedback from not last episode, Phil, but from the episode before that. If you'll recall, we had the deputy director for Zimura, the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, on this podcast. And as others said, we had him in a blender, which I did not think we did. Look, I don't want to say that it was our influence that caused things to change. But maybe it contributed a little bit.
The timing is very coincidental. It's very coincidental.
Look, I don't want to say it.
And but that's what the streets
we can let
I've been
we
tapped
can let
in with
others
the
say
streets.
it.
The streets are telling me
Yeah. Absolutely. Others can say it, not us. But yeah, so there's been some updates. Phil, this is your forte. What can you tell us about these updates?
Let me bring up. Thank you for setting me up perfectly, Dan, so that I was fully prepared with my talking points, you bastard.
I took so long talking about Zimura, and you're busy playing your game there. That's the problem.
Hey, I was finishing my level.
Phil, why is the Zimura page? Why is the Zimura website? What's going on? Is it being hacked by a Chinese company? What's going on?
Yeah, some government websites have been hacked. I remember I mentioned the other day. Didn't I say it on the podcast that there was a government entity I was working with whose website was hacked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's been ongoing.
So there was an update. Zimura put out. Well, actually, it was the National Arts Council in collaboration with Zimura. They then put out. Let's say they put out some information about this $150 cover band or cover fee, cover license for cover bands. License for you know what I'm talking about, the $150 thing. And yeah, they basically said, listen.
Here we go. I've got it now.
To read it.
So the press release. The National Arts Council is pleased to announce the successful conclusion of a productive stakeholder meeting with the Zimura and other music industry stakeholders regarding the implementation of a fair and sustainable tariff structure for cover bands operating in Zimbabwe. This was prompted by various music institutions lobbying for this dialogue following the announcement by Zimura that all cover bands in Zimbabwe should pay $150 license per show, a move which was not well received by some musicians. Some?
Well, I saw some who were, I saw Victor Knonga post on his social media say he's 100% behind it. So, you know.
Okay. You know what? Actually, let's call us better. And I love Victor Knonga. On Victor Knonga's same page, just scroll. Like, when was the last time there's a show booking?
Anyway, right. Phil, please continue. Please, let's not go down this route. Victor Knonga stays
I need to understand who is covering. Okay, you know what? It's cool.
Victor Knonga stays booked. Cool. Phil, he's sure he's not doing festivals and concerts.
I get why he his problem case is the very one Henry brought up, which is you can't get the booking, so a cheaper artist who's singing more popular songs will get booked. The meeting was held on 21 March, brought together stakeholders from National Arts Council, Zimura, and representatives of the music industry, who include academics, associates, unions, composers, leaders, cover bands, beneficiaries, blah, 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 blah. I was not called. Were you called that?
Phil, why would we be called when we are the ones who planted the seeds?
So they wanted to align all in international best practices and then finding common understanding on the fees. So basically, it's a press release, but this is like we understand this needs to be discussed. We began the discussions. Here's a summary of us beginning the discussions with no solid. It's like it's a preliminary hearing without any real judgment.
Okay, to sum, basically what it is all right. We announced this license. We've heard that some people have issues with it, so we're now discussing and we are open to revising it. So that's basically where we are now. It's a good step. They're like, okay, it's a nice change from we know what we're doing to okay, maybe there's some things we may have overlooked. We're going to discuss and then come to a conclusion. I think the thing that you kept trying to hammer home that everyone sort of the big thing is internationally, the artist is not the one who's responsible for cover songs being played at a venue. It's the venue or the promoter. They're the ones who are responsible to make sure that there's a blanket license so that any cover music or DJ playing music or combination of DJ plus R, whatever the case is all covered by this license. Then the owners of said song will be able to receive some kind of money. We move forward. But yeah, it seems, I think that was the thing that really made people say, okay, wait. So you're saying artists are not the ones who, you guys are saying we're protecting artists by charging artists. Can you see the problem here? Because it's not the public.
What Henry's, he did say clearly, he said like, we are protecting composers by charging artists because a composer and a performing artist may not necessarily be the same thing.
True. Yeah.
And that's why I asked him, so what is your guys' mandate? And then what happens when you have an artist who's also a composer and they may choose to deliver a live show that mixes elements of other existing music?
What happens when the performing artist is not the composer, but so in some cases, right? The performing artist won't be the composer, or the composer won't be the performing artist. In some cases, it's the same. The performing artist and the composer, it's the same. So you are harming some artists to protect other artists. So it's a problem. It's a problem. Anyway, we just wanted to give you that update that apparently talks are ongoing involving the ministry, the National Arts Council, and Zimura and they said they are open to potentially revising it. So let's see what happens.
This is not going to stand because while I was also in South Africa, I managed to meet with some industry heads. But damn, do you know how many meetings? I mean, people were like, listen to the podcast, but they also very clear. Yeah, we just listened to the part about the Zimura stuff and then we stopped. So just to be clear, so we like don't ask me questions, but we listened. And these are people that literally run some of the biggest organizations on the continent, and they were like, "Yeah, we listened to the podcast. That was wild."
People who are not in the music business were like, "Yo, that was wild."
These are people I didn't send the link to. You know what I mean? I'm just like, "Yo, Dan, we got some pull out in these streets, dog. We got some pull out in these streets."
Hey, while we're at, I want to give a shout out to Anonymous. You didn't tell me your name. He was with his family. Well, I hope that was your family.
Look at you blowing up someone's spot. What's wrong with you?
And my man's just like, "Hey, yo, Danny, that guy, listen to the podcast." I was like, "Oh, dope." He's like, "I'm not yet a Patreon member, but I will be soon." And I was looking at his car. I was like, well, looking at your vehicle, I think soon should have been a long time ago, and you should definitely be going for the Mbinga tier, sir. So shout out to you shout out to everyone who comes and who sees us in public and says, "Yo, listen to the podcast." Much appreciated. But also shout out to you for recognizing that, hey, I should be supporting this thing that I enjoy, or this thing that I learn from, or this thing that I feel part of, because I promise you, I understand money's tight, but I promise you that feeling of community that we have in the WhatsApp group. I love it, man. I love, like, what do we think about this, guys? What do we think about? What's our take on this? And sometimes we discuss. Shout out to those of y'all who are continuing to pay. If you've paused your payments, you're getting a little bit of a grace period. But please, tifungo, tuono.
Guys, tough times are lasting in Zimbabwe. Tough times are lasting.
Okay, Phil. This is meant to be a 1-2 punch episode, so let's get into our main talking points, which will also be gaga, but I have a feeling that we're going to take some time talking about them.
Are we going to do sports talk this episode? We seem to get a lot of positive responses to sports talk.
Not this episode, but subsequent episodes we will, but not this one specifically. I know you have, so you're bending to talk about the Lakers.
Not really,
No.
but yeah, it's fine. I'll phone Tabo.
Or are you bending to talk about Formula One and Liam Lawson's being dropped? Personally, I think it's too early. You got to give him a chance. Come on, Red Bull. Don't be like that.
Oh, Red Bull is like, for all of this success, why don't people talk enough about how much of a cluster F Red Bull is? For 6 years, Red Bull has been incapable of having a second driver.
Max covers everything up. Max covers everything up.
You have two teams. You are literally the only team now on the grid with two certified teams. And you haven't built a feeder program from your junior drivers to Alpha Tauri to Racing Bull now to Red Bull. Like, it's impossible for them to do. And no one calls them out. Like Helmut Marko and his squad, time, they need to be put, like, their feet need to be put to the fire. Because it's what? It's what?
We're going. Let's come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Christian Horner, you filthy pervert. How dare you?
So we hinted on it so briefly last. We mentioned that there was this whole furor about Holy 10 being on Ola's podcast and the fact that we didn't really want to talk about it.
Little did we know.
Or did things escalate further? So let me give you a very brief. I'm sure you already heard the story, but I'm going to give a very brief rundown of what happened and how we got to the stage that we are at now. So Ola hosts a podcast. I think it's called On the Spot or something. I don't know. I don't know. Whenever he has guests, he calls it on the. I don't know.
It's called Just with the Mess or something like that. Yeah.
The point is, Ola, who is used to be a prominent radio host on Star FM, after which he had a very big back and forth with management, and he went and was like, "Screw you guys, I'm going to start my own podcast." And he launched his podcast with a lot of halabaloo, and it actually has done well for him because he gets quite a bit of people watching his podcast. Okay, no shade. Ola has a podcast. Anyway, on his most recent episode, well, after he came out of jail, spoiler alert, he had another episode. But before that one, he hosted Holy 10. Now, Holy 10 is promoting some music that's coming up, and Holy 10 said some very wild things on the podcast. We hinted on in our last episode where I said, I don't want to talk about this stuff. Partly because,
good thing we didn't, because we would have been named as correspondents.
part of the reason I don't want to talk about it is because I know why he does it. He says outlandish things purposefully so that people talk about him. It's clearly a model that works for him, in his opinion, and gets people to talk about him and maintains him as one of the biggest or most talked about artists in Zimbabwe. So he said some very wild things about Mudiwa Hood, about Hubert Angel, about his own wife, which was the wild part to me.
That's where you lost me. I was like, yo, fam, like, what are you doing right now? What are you doing?
Literally his current wife that he is currently married to. He said he was saying very wild stuff. I won't even repeat some of the stuff. But basically he said extremely wild things. And of course, as expected, everyone was clipping the videos and sharing them. Can you believe he said this? Can you believe he said that? Well, some people took it further. Mudiwa Hood specifically, he came forward and he basically filed charges.
Oh, let's also not get a lot. There were a lot of, I don't know if it's law firms or practices that seem to be hopping on the trend, seem to be responding to clients that weren't actually their clients. I'm not sure what is happening there. I don't really care. Like, maybe someone else will understand more about it. But like, even Mudiwa came out and said, like, yo, these guys, this law firm doesn't represent me, or this law firm doesn't represent Hubert Angel, but they were filing for defamation. There were sums as high as $1 million being purported. This is nonsensical. And so, also, that's why I was like, okay, this is clearly fake, because there's no legal firm with a clear understanding of Zimbabwean law that would come out the gate with that. That figure for damages is insane.
Sometimes it's just done as a like to scare the person, and so okay. Without looking too much into people's motives and so on. Long story short, among other people, Mudiwa Hood, and I think there were others like Mama V and some other people that filed charges. The charges were for defamation against Holy 10. And seemingly in these same charges, Ola, as the host of the podcast, was also included. Meanwhile, he was in there just like, say what? And he was expressing shock at what Holy 10 was saying. Further to that,
like it was like the Zimbabwean Shannon Sharp. You can't say that about him. What are you talking about?
no, don't say that. Anyway, apparently the National Prosecuting Authority also then made it more than just defamation case. It was now criminal charges on the, I think it's the Cybersecurity
and Bullying
Cybersecurity and Data Protection Act.
Yeah.
Where there's a clause in that act for cyberbullying. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I know there's people who are far more familiar with the law than I am who will be listening to how I describe this and will be rolling their eyes at my legal language. Please forgive me. I'm speaking from a layman's perspective. But basically what I'm saying is charges were filed against Holy Ten and Ola that cyberbullying was done on this podcast, which is insane to me. But anyway. Ola was, it was basically put out there that he was being searched for. I think he went live on his Facebook to say his life is in danger or something like that. And And then he handed himself over to the police, and then he was put in the stocks. And then it was also put out there that Holy Ten is being searched for, is on the run. Then he then put out a video saying, "I'm not on the run, I'm at a show." And there's a whole lot of drama. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Mudiwa Hood then withdrew his charges, and then the National Prosecuting Authority, I think, also put out a statement where they said that they are not going to be pursuing prosecution in the case of Ola 7 and I think they specifically mentioned Ola 7. I don't know what was said about Holy 10. Anyway, I'm not interested in discussing the exact details of exactly what happened, but this is just basically an overview. Holy 10 was on a podcast, on Ola's podcast. He said some very wild things. Some people filed charges, even the state filed charges, and Ola was thrown in jail, which made a lot of people say, wait, what? He didn't say anything though. But yeah, he was the host of the podcast. Anyway, long story short, charges were withdrawn. National Prosecuting Authority said we're not going to pursue charges on cyberbullying with Ola. Ola was released. I don't know. As of now, I don't know if Holy 10 is still wanted or not wanted. I don't know. But I
think you forgot a key caveat.
Yeah.
There. In the midst of all this, I think the podcast dropped when we recorded, which was a Wednesday. Was it Tuesday or Wednesday?
Remember, we recorded.
It was Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
It was Tuesday. On Wednesday, I don't know if you saw, Holy 10 was at Rainbow Towers.
Yes.
Which was a clear sign that, yeah, he ain't touching jail. No matter what happens, guys, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of a flex. Like when you in front of 20,000 people and the president is sitting right there and you say one word and the whole crowd shouts it back at you. I mean, you've kind of shown the president you got a little pull in these streets. You know what I mean? You don't even need to go directly to him. Just like, I'm sorry, Waguru. That's ambitious, but just, yeah. Get what I'm saying? Yeah, okay.
100%. I doubt that man will be touching the inside of any cells anyway. But this is the overall situation. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I had a conversation with a couple of people, especially people in broadcasting and even content creation, and they were worried. And they were like, what do you think? What do you think? And I was like, guys, firstly, I think it's very difficult for us to speak as if everything is always 100% above board.
Mm-hmm.
We know the country that we live in.
Yep.
So I won't elaborate further on that. Secondly, I mean, I expect in any other part of the world, I would expect someone like Holy 10 to be sued for some of the things that he was saying. Man, he was attacking people's families and livelihoods and people's. I expect him to be sued for defamation.
Dude was so adamant about attacking families. He attacked his own.
my man was like, I do not discriminate. Everybody can catch these ants. I can catch these ants.
I don't care if I sleep with her tonight. She gonna get right near.
Anyway, so I don't think him being sued for defamation is anything shocking. I think it's par for the course. But where I find it weird is this whole Cyber Security and Data Protection Act and cyberbullying. Because first of all, that act is, again, I'm not a lawyer, but in my layman's perspective, it is incredibly open to interpretation. Which means that it's very easy to choose if someone is cyberbullying or not.
It's almost like it was designed to be vague.
Which means it can very easily be used to punish anyone who says something you don't like. Because it's easy to interpret it in a way that can be interpreted as cyberbullying. So I think that we have to be aware and careful of what we say, especially if you are based in this country. Which is why I don't like to talk about politics.
What? Then we are a free nation. What are you saying?
Secondly, I heard some people discussing the idea of, yeah, but sometimes you need drama for, for music to sell, for the industry to grow, for artists to be seen. I'm not against that sentiment as a whole. But what were the numbers on Kanye West's latest album? Actually, that's a very interesting question.
Well, there's no numbers because it's only on YouTube. And apparently it's just one long string. I'm not even entertaining Kanye, bro. I'm not even entertaining him.
Kanye West's new album, Bully, was removed from Apple Music. So Kanye West has a new album, and I'm not going to listen to it. Maybe I will sometime in the future. I don't know if I can find a way to pirate it just out of interest sake. But
I will never listen to that. Why am I listening to a Nazi? I don't understand. Why are you listening to a Nazi then? I have to ask you. I genuinely have to ask you. Why are you listening to a Nazi?
do you know what? Kanye's album cover is literally a swastika. Well, his alternative album cover, a swastika. So there's drama for you. He literally is at the pinnacle of drama, but it's working in the opposite direction for him. I would argue for Holy 10, this specific type of drama works in the opposite direction for him as well. I think, yes, drama as a whole or as a concept is great because it gets people talking about you. It gets the blogs and the newspapers talking about you. It gets you invited to places where you can talk about whatever it is that they're asking about. And then, of course, you get to promote your music. Aunties and uncles who would otherwise have never even heard your name now hear your name. And it grows the music in general. But this specific drama where you're literally burning bridges and insulting people, and it leaves people with a bad taste in their mouth. And I don't think that
talking crap about the mother of your child.
That's insane. So anyway, and I know, we all know why he does it, right? Anyway, so in my opinion, this specific type of drama, no, it's not going to help him. I don't think. You asked me why would I listen to a Nazi? I don't. I wouldn't want to listen to a Nazi. I don't. But I also know that Kanye West is a genius at music.
Then he's still a Nazi. You know what Hitler was? Hitler was a genius. He got the train to run on time. Are you going to listen? To quote the famous, the quote from Succession, was there something in Mein Kampf that you missed the first time that you went back to?
I hate the idea of talking about Kanye, but in my opinion, Kanye is trolling for attention. And it is.
Dan, did you hear what he said about Jay-Z's children?
Yes.
That is not trolling. That is not trolling.
Those things are literally trolling is even a light word. Do I genuinely believe that Kanye West identifies with the ideals and values of the National Socialist Party of Germany? No.
Dan, he keeps telling you he does, and this is
listen to me express my thoughts. I think Kanye West knows that the most outlandish thing he can possibly say will have people talking about him. And he will double down on it because he doesn't care about people's feelings, thoughts, opinions, whatever the case is, doesn't care who he hurts, doesn't care how deplorable what he says is. This is my opinion, just on how he moves. I think trolling is not the right word, right? I don't think he's trolling. I think he is, first of all, I think he's a very disturbed individual, firstly. Secondly, I think he's deliberately moving the direction of saying the worst possible thing he can think of in any given moment. And I don't know if it's like a self-destructive thing. I don't know if...
There's a word for that. There's a word for people that say the most damaging thing they can in any moment, and it's not a troll. Kanye keeps proving he is what we think he is. We keep saying he's trolling. He keeps saying, I'm a Nazi. We're like, nah, man, he's not a Nazi, man. He's trolling us. Then he'll do more Nazi stuff. He'll be like, nah, this ain't a Nazi. Then he'll go in a white national program and say, I'm a Nazi. And we're like, nah, man, Kanye's not a Nazi. Then he'll walk out with a literal swastika on his shirt. And we're like, nah, he's still trolling. At what point do we start believing this man when he says, I'm a Nazi, and he keeps doing Nazi things? When do we start believing him?
I understand this. I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is I I have a very strong feeling that. I mean, this is kind of a pointless debate anyway, because it doesn't matter whether he does believe it or not. Doesn't matter. The point is, he's still, you judge a person by their actions. So yes, absolutely, from Kanye West's actions and so on, he's a Nazi. But I am very sure that at some point in the future, he's going to come out and say, "Listen, I don't know what I was going through, blah de blah de blah," and so.
And also, Dan, there's no time period, right? Like whether you were a Nazi for 1 week in 1946 or whether you were a Nazi for 60 years.
Okay, what is a
still a
Nazi?
Nazi.
What is a Nazi, Phil?
Someone that has the ideals of the SS party, someone who reflects those ideals, someone who believes in white authoritarianism and white fascism and white racism. That is a Nazi.
Right. So I'm with you there. So of course, colloquially, the term has evolved to mean other things. But when we're talking about Nazi, it's someone who is literally a member of or believes in or supports the Nationalist Socialist Party of Germany and their ideals. And obviously, as time went on, and colloquially, the meaning of the word basically means someone who supports that. So same ideals of white supremacy and the Aryan race and some of the other things that they believed in, anti-Semitism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? All of that. Now, I don't believe that Kanye West actually believes in what that party believed in. I think there's certain parts of it that he does believe in and therefore identifies himself as a Nazi. I think he's deliberately trying to antagonize certain groups of people. And I also think he's a horrible person. But this debate is pointless anyway, because either way, he's a horrible person. I remember the feeling of listening College Dropout and Graduation and Late Registration, and I go back and I was recently listening to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I was like, this man is a genius at making music. So from a pure curiosity about music made, I do want to at some point listen to this new album, but I don't want to contribute in any way to his numbers or money or growth or whatever. So I don't know. I'll find a way. And I don't want to right now because I already know that it's going to leave a sour taste in my mind or in my mouth just listening to it in any way anyway. But at some point, I do want to hear what did he cook. So I will listen to it at some point, or at least sample it. But I don't want to support him in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So I just to answer that question, I do feel like just having drama or causing people to be angry. I don't think anyone heard what Holy Ten said and were like, yeah, I support, or I agree. It was all shock and like, what the heck? What are you saying? So in my mind, I don't think that kind of drama is helpful to him at all. But anyway, let's move on from that, Phil. Let's be the tech ombudsman for the people, them.
After supporting Kanye. Okay.
You see now, we can no longer have good faith, normal, rational conversations because any idea that isn't, I immediately denounce and will not mention it, means supporting. Don't be the woke left, Phil. Don't be the woke left.
No, I'll be left. I won't even make a right turn.
Okay. Something very interesting happened this week. In fact, several very interesting things happened. Did you know that Google launched Gemini 2.5?
I did indeed. I use their experimental program. So yeah, I've been using it for a while.
Gemini 2.5, which came out this past week, I think it was a week ago maybe, blows everything that OpenAI has so far out of the water from a reasoning perspective. DeepSeek.
It's a great.
DeepSeek also launched some updates. I didn't look too deeply into what they exactly what they do, but from what I understand, they're really making crazy movements. But all of that was not as noticed as the update that came to OpenAI's ChatGPT 4.0. It's not even a new model. It's the old model that we've had all along. They just introduced what they're calling native image generation. And I won't lie, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. In terms of impact, that this week, that's what everyone's been. If you've opened your Twitter, your Instagram, whatever it is, and all you've seen is Ghibli studio animation style photos, it's because of that. So, long story short, OpenAI announced native image generation. Basically, it's super advanced generation of images, and it's doing really It's really good at taking images and enhancing them or changing them or whatever. It's really good at generating from scratch. People were demonstrating how you could just do sketches and ask for a highly detailed image based on these sketches. So someone would, for example, let's say you want to create a YouTube thumbnail about your trip to visit a volcano. So you literally just draw on very rough sketch of an upside down triangle to represent volcano, label it volcano, and then slot a picture of your face in front. You say generate a YouTube thumbnail using this as a template. Well, brilliant photos. I can't even hate. I was trying to hate, but I can't. That's some impressive photo generation and understanding of context. And I experimented. I took some photos and I was like, yo, create a Ghibli anime. I mean, everyone's doing Ghibli. I want to let me see this. And I was like, okay, created this style or whatever. And every time I was impressed. I wouldn't say it was absolutely 100% perfect, but every time I was impressed, like, this is good. It's like really good. So that's currently the situation. They put up an announcement on their blog, and then apparently everyone went crazy, and they showed some examples of original image generation. It was super impressive, and people were like, we can't believe it. Then they went and tried it, and they were like, damn. I believe the Ghibli studio trend was started by some dude who took a photo of, maybe it was himself or he took someone else's photo, I don't know, but it was him and his wife and a dog on the beach, and he was like, ooh, insane alpha move. Take a photo of yours, make it Ghibli, and send it to your wife. And it, went like super ultra viral, and then everyone started making Ghibli animation. If you don't know what Ghibli is, by the way, you maybe are very confused. Studio Ghibli is an animation studio out in Japan. It was started by this guy by the name of Hayao Miyazaki. And they are like super, super intense about maintaining the original soul of anime. And they have a specific style that they make, and they do everything in-house, and it's handcrafted, and an incredible amount of work goes into it. And there's a specific number of Ghibli studio animation style movies and stuff. And it's built a huge fan base. So Ghibli's art style is exclusive to Ghibli Studio. But, well, not anymore, because now you can
That's what I was saying. Not anymore.
Not anymore. Now, remember, I mentioned that Miyazaki, the founder of Ghibli Studio, he really believes in the idea of the heart and the soul of the animation. So you do it by hand, and it takes them years to put out any movies because they do everything by hand, and I'm sure they integrate certain technology and so on just to make it work and whatever. But it's basically, this is Ghibli Studio because you can tell someone put heart and soul into it. Anyway, someone showed him what was happening with ChatGPT and how they were making this Ghibli style animation, and you could see the anger on his face, like he's watching a video of someone generating Ghibli style images, and he went crazy. He says, I strongly feel this is an insult to life itself. Like, yo, whoa, bro. And I get it. I understand.
Yeah, he ain't wrong.
So there's this whole conversation. So first of all, very impressive. By the way, while we're in this conversation, there's other AI news, but let's focus on this image generation, native image generation from OpenAI. There's several things to talk about here. And I think probably one of the most important ones is, and it especially comes to the forefront because of this Ghibli Studio situation. So it has become so easy to make images, and it's scary for graphics designers. Obviously doesn't mean that graphics designers won't have a job. It just means as a graphics designer, you as a graphics designer should start integrating some of these powerful tools to streamline your work, et cetera, But also in reality, it is getting a little bit scary for graphics designers. I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
People were demonstrating some of the amazing things they were doing. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. Some talking points. Do you think, Phil, that it's wrong? Everyone who's like making, let's say they're taking photos and they're making Ghibli Studio style, Ghibli Studio animation style photos based on photos they take. Is that wrong? Is that some kind of a betrayal? Are they betraying Miyazaki and his ideals? Is it wrong for a person to do that?
I mean, legally, you always have two rights. You have a moral right and you have a legal right.
Yeah.
The moral right is like, is this fair? Is this right? Is this okay? Like, are both parties getting a fair shake? And the legal right is, according to the law, what rights do you have as a creator? What rights do you have as a consumer? What rights do you have as a user of a product? Ultimately, this is probably the clearest example of one of the clear examples of ChatGPT infringing on intellectual property outside of just ingesting the raw content or raw data. This is an example of them infringing on it and replicating it. And it's very similar to the case that Reuters won a month ago, where the guys that have that law library literally just ingested their data verbatim and it was able to be recreated verbatim. Here, there's a bit of a transformative effect because you're applying that style to a new image. So I'm no lawyer, I'm an observer, but this is, we're now hurtling towards where people had legitimate concerns for what AI could and would do. And this is it. It's like a style that has been, as the creator says, painstakingly being mastered and perfected years over years over years, hours over hours, damn near millions of dollars invested into it. And but with the snap of a finger, because ChatGPT and OpenAI were able to ingest your content freely, are able to replicate your style. So now, at what point do the rights of and the intellectual property of the creators get protected here? Because before, ChatGPT and large language models were random word generators, random image generators. And like if you use like Midjourney, for example, like you'd have to take like if you wanted to create a similar image to the one they just created, you have to take the generation key, use that, and it'll give you an image somewhat similar to the one you just created, but different. We've now gotten to a point where things are so specific. You can take an image like with the new version of ChatGPT and be like, you see, I'm holding a water bottle. Replace that water bottle with a bottle of beer. And to a very good level of accuracy, it will do that. So now it's no longer random. It's damn near recreating human actions, human thought, human IP. And we're getting it's getting scary hours, yo. It's getting the scary hours. And the thing is, legislation has not kept pace. And IP theft has not kept pace with this. And it's going to be a problem. Like, if I'm a creator, that's also why, like, granted, we still use it on the show, but I don't play it anymore because, like, in the beginning, Suno was like a fun little concept, experimental, and then I realized, actually, I don't feel comfortable using Suno because Suno is in court every week because they just steal artists' creativity and they replicate it. And I don't know if you've been following it, but now there's lo-fi hip hop, for example. It's a big thing on YouTube, especially for people that want to work. I even came across randomly a channel that just has music from Severance. There's an 8-hour stream, but just music from Severance. And if you want to work, it's actually really good. Really great to focus on. I've never watched an episode of Severance yet, but it's great to focus on. But now, all those random channels that do lo-fi hip-hop have now been recreated or replicated by channels that just do AI, lo-fi, or dance music, and it runs for hours, and they're making money over it. And the original composers aren't seeing a cent.
Fun fact, that the lo-fi trend actually started out as someone. Anyway, I mean, I read their story about this person who was who started this whole lo-fi thing, and the iconic image of a girl sitting at her desk studying, and then the music is sort of playing, and it blew up. That so many people love the idea of that lo-fi music that helps them while studying or working or whatever. And I can imagine why AI would be a threat there. Okay. I hear your thing, Phil, but I also have a separate view as well. I think there's two things to take a look at. Number one is there has to be some kind of accountability to these huge companies like OpenAI and Google and whatever that are able to build these huge money-making machines using other people's creativity and content and IP.
And data sets. Even just data sets.
So that's a big issue, right? And I think it must be taken into account. But on the flip side, I don't think tools should be withheld from growing. I think there just must be a very fair compensation. Yes, Miyazaki and his studio took years to develop this kind of art. But once you've developed art, it's out in the world. Once it exists out in the world, people can replicate it. The difference is it's now easy to replicate it because of this tool. But before this new version of ChatGPT 4.0 image generation, people were doing Ghibli style art on there. They were doing Ghibli style fan art. There's whole pages of fan art of Ghibli style, or what if this was Ghibli, or whatever the case is. All that stuff existed. It just took people a really long time to do it. So that, I don't think the tool is the problem. I think compensation needs to be taken into account. But at the same time, once you've created an art and you've put it out there, you must be aware that other people are going to imitate or be inspired by or replicate your art.
Keyword is other?
People. Yes. Now those people will have tools that might make it easier. So for example, maybe 100 years ago, if I was really inspired by a piece of art that I saw at a museum, I would have to sit in that museum and then paint it out. Right there in the museum in front of it, or in the gallery. And then along came cameras. So maybe now I was at a stage where I could take a photo of that art and then I could go home and then replicate it at my leisure. Then maybe came other tools like Photoshop and Canva and whatever that helped me to replicate certain art styles and things. But, you know, I kind of have to make it, but I can use these tools to make this part easier. I can use that tool to make that part easier. So here's come an even more powerful tool that makes that replication even easier. So the process of replication or copying or inspiration or whatever the case, or whatever you want to call it, has always existed. The only difference now is it's much, much easier than what it was before. So I think we have to acknowledge that a tool making something easier is not the problem. The problem is, back then, what would happen if Instagram made hundreds of millions of dollars because it was just full of art taken from different galleries? Someone could raise a question that, wait, hold on. You guys didn't make any of this art. You just created a platform where people can see this art that was made by other people. That person needs to be compensated. I think that's fair. And I think it's also fair to say, hang on, OpenAI, you didn't create this image. You used already existing art to make this image. And you're making money out of it. You're able to generate some kind of revenue. So I think the original creators of said art should be able to benefit, unless the art is in the open domain, which, you know, is a thing that exists. Of course, it's a complex thing to figure out in terms of IP law, but I do think there should be compensation. But I also think there's a lot of people who have a very doomsday approach that this needs to be stopped. And I don't think it needs to be stopped. A tool that creates or replicates, once the genie's out of the bottle, there's no putting it back in. I don't know if I 100% agree with this take, but I saved it just to take a look at it in the podcast. This person says the backlash against AI-generated Ghibli-style art, he thinks the reaction boils down to the fear of irrelevance. What took artists years of dedication, practice, and struggle can now be replicated effortlessly by AI for next to nothing. Resentment for this loss of exclusivity is understandable, but futile. Today it's drawing and graphic design. Tomorrow it's coding, playing, writing music, writing, cooking, every other skill that takes humans years to learn and perfect. At some point, could be replicated by some automated tool that can be done. And of course, it's going to build on all the years, even centuries of us to get to this stage. But it's a tool. It's a tool, and it's going to happen at some point. So I agree. I completely understand the fear of...
You agree with what?
I somewhat agree with this sentiment, that it's futile to try to hold back this thing from existing. However, I think it's important to fight for fair compensation. My point is, I think at some point, anything that we view, it took years of study, 10,000 hours to learn the skill and the craft to be able to get to this point where I can make this. But now that there's a tool that makes it easy to make in 1 minute, it doesn't mean the tool shouldn't exist or the tool should be scuppered somehow. What it means is, if that tool used your years of work and your 10,000 hours to become a master of said craft, if it used that to be able to perfect this replication tool, then you must get compensation. And you know, I can completely understand lobbying groups and whoever who are like fighting for fair compensation for everyone whose art has been ingested or whose data sets have been ingested. We have to figure out a way. It's going to be complex, but we have to figure out a way that Miyazaki and his Ghibli studio art are able to get compensation. And maybe to a certain extent, they should also have the ability to refuse. But that's going to be very difficult because once your art is out in the world, you no longer have control over it. Once it's out for people to consume, the control disappears. So fine, maybe you can say that direct studio, Ghibli studio art may not be replicated by AI tools. Let's say you're able to get that law in place. What about all the fan art that's made by people who are inspired by Ghibli Studio? You don't have any control over that.
I think the key point that I don't think you're getting, and that quote that you also highlighted misses, is this: AI tools, large language models as we know them today. So these image generation tools, even the text revelation tools, they don't create anything. What they do is they ingest large data sets, they randomize it and tokenize it, and then they recreate tokens based on the prompt you give it. So essentially, they do not create anything. It's all they do is it's like a recipe. You got flour, salt, sugar, eggs, water, milk, etc. The whatever you ask them will always have those raw ingredients. The way in which it mixes them and prepares them will differ slightly. So the cake you get every time will be slightly different. And as I said, now as the cakes consistently become more and more consistent, it means that they are more accurately able to replicate, but they are not able to create anything new. There is nothing new that an LLM can create because it doesn't have the ability to do so. It literally just takes what's been ingested, figures out how it looks, how it's created, and then replicates that. And that's the problem, is even with humans, with a human and the way we understand human creation and IP laws and so forth, there's a transformative model to it where I may see the art Dan makes, the art behind Dan, for example. I may want to recreate that art. So stage one is I can literally get tracing paper, put it on the canvas, trace that, right? And as I progress as an artist, I'll move on from tracing paper to copying with my eye to developing my own style to once again becoming my own established artist.
Yes.
That's how, because what is it called? Everything is a remix. All art is a remix. All art is something replicated from something you've seen before with your own twist. But within that process, there is a creation of something new. There's some original thought that's executed by a human being and an artist. What AI is trying to do with polarity, singularity, and full AI gen is getting to a point where the AI is supposed to be able to think for itself or mimic human thought. But because we don't know how it's made, that's the problem. And I think if you listen to the last episode of the episode before the last episode of Intelligent Machines, with one of the individuals that signed the petition to pause, and he kind of broke it down very cogently, where it was like, listen, guys, the problem with AI is simply that we don't know how it works. Like, all AI scientists don't really know how AI comes up with the things it does. And there's a positive and a negative with that. The positive, obviously, is it can kind of do its own thing, and it can use adversarial training data to become better. But that's the good thing. The bad thing is that it's not alarmist to believe that if we want to train AI to become the best version of AI can be, one of those clear objectives is I should never be able to be turned off, and I should always be iterative. If we don't know how it achieves those goals, the AI will never turn off, which means even if we try to shut it down, we will not be able to shut it down. What happens when that happens? Like, we're literally creating a Skynet scenario without putting safety rails in place. And to some people, it sounds alarmist, but to other people, it kind of makes sense. And that's where I'm at with this, with the art side, is if, like, we've started to see it. And I think you're on TikTok as well, but even on YouTube, how many pages have reviews or content or discussion points where it's clearly an AI voice? But now as AI voices become better, like, now you suddenly wonder, like, yo, I can't even tell. Like, is this person just really drab? Or is this an AI voice? Because like, as I'm sure you know, Dan, like you, I love watching a movie or reading a book or watching something and then going to read or see what other reviewers think of what I watched. So, like, for example, I just watched The Residents. We'll get that in the TV segment of the program. But then I also wanted to hear reviews. And like, one of the first reviews I came across was clearly AI slop. And that's the problem is now, like, if we become inundated with slop that's so easy to create, that's so easy to replicate, how do we discern what is actually valuable art and what do we actually determine to be valuable art, as an art made by humans or art made by AI machine? What is it in art that we value? Is there something in value in what AI is creating versus what it's not creating? And also, back to the root of it is, if AI is trained clearly, because all AI is trained off our content, but specifically here, there's a clear example where it's like you can point to it and be like, yo, this AI is copying this guy's flow bar for bar, word for word. What's fair, what's not fair?
Here's what you're not getting, Phil. The tool that is AI exists. It's pointless to discuss whether it should exist or it shouldn't. That was what I was.
I'm not discussing whether it should, but I'm merely saying.
Allow me to cook my point. There's no point in us belaboring whether it should be allowed to exist or it should be allowed to make art or it should be allowed. You and I both use AI tools for our work, and we can agree that there's things that it really helps with. That same tool, that same process that it uses can be used for other things as well, including art, including science, including whatever. So where we use it to draft by the way, I use that Gamma tool to do a pitch deck. Saved me 2 hours minimum.
Mm-hmm.
That same tool, the abilities it has can be used in many different fields. So it's pointless for us to discuss whether it should exist or it shouldn't. The point is a tool has been made that makes things easier. And one of those things that it can make easier is art, including music. I think it's a fair discussion about AI slop. I think the platforms that exist should get better at being able to filter out things that are slop or terrible or whatever. But if you can't tell the difference between a song that was made by a human and a song that was made by AI, my argument here is not that we must then shut down AI. My argument is then the human needs to step up their game to make it so that their art is better than AI. Because if it takes you 10,000 hours to become a producer that makes this specific beat, right? And yes, it's unfortunate that this tool was trained on your 10,000 hours of sweat and hard work. But now that tool can make that same beat in a few seconds. You must get compensation, but the tool exists and it can do that. So we now have to face this reality where this tool that can do these things. The conversation the conversation about whether it should or shouldn't is irrelevant in my opinion. Because even if you and I believe that it shouldn't, there's always going to be people who believe that it should, or that even if it shouldn't, I can make a profit by it being able to. So now we're in this space where a tool exists that can do this. So I'm not here advocating for the rights of AI or AI should be able to do this. I'm working from a very realistic place of this tool that can do this now exists. So Miyazaki and his studio Ghibli are rightfully chagrined that, listen, we have spent so much time and painstaking hours to create this art style. And now here's this tool that's just, it's literally turning someone sitting on a toilet and turning it to AI. We probably burned 10,000 trees doing this. That sucks. But the tool exists and there's no putting it back in the bottle. It's out now. Even if we manage to put a rule on OpenAI, America comes together and they fight hard and say OpenAI must not do this. There will be companies doing it underground and other countries will be doing it. Even if the whole world agrees that, you know what, in order to protect our artists, we're banning these tools. There's going to be people underground making those tools and there'll be people using those tools illegally. And it's going to be a case of whack-a-mole of trying to block it until we realize in the future that we shouldn't have blocked it anyway. So my point is, yes, I get it. It's frustrating because it's stolen art. But the tool now exists. And frankly, even if it's not going to use your direct work, Mr. Miyazaki, maybe you ban it and Studio Ghibli bans all AI tools. First of all, it's already ingested some of it. Whether it should have been allowed to or not is a different conversation. But even if it didn't, there's all the derivative work of yours that already exists and you might not have direct control over. It's going to be able to take that in anyway. And it's going to be able to deliver something that makes sense. So it's better that you get compensation for it. Just like and I think it should be fair to be able to refuse. But I think if you refuse, you're putting yourself up in a position where. Anyway, something else I wanted to raise, which is somewhat to your point, and I thought this was such a powerful point. Thanks to generative AI, it's very likely that fewer and fewer people would dedicate the years it takes to create aesthetics or styles or beautiful things, because a market will not exist to support it. So once upon a time, it made sense for Mr. Miyazaki and team to work for years to create this beautiful Studio Ghibli style, because there was going to be people that would pay for it. But you know what happened now? You know what happened? In one day, 24 hours, the whole internet got tired of Studio Ghibli style, because millions of people were posting up photos until it got annoying. So now this person who spent so many thousands of hours creating this beautiful, beautiful style, people are turned off by it. Ugh, hate this. Saw it all over my timeline. Because of one day, 24 hours of people generating slop.
And I think that's exactly what I'm issuing. Like, I am all for using tools. Technology moves, right? But I'm also for the preservation of art. And the crux that we have here that needs to be addressed and needs to be figured out is these AI tools have made it incredibly easy to commodify art.
Mm-hmm.
And art has already become commodified because of capitalism, and this is a further step in it. And it all leads into a bunch of tangential discussions. In the Patreon group over the past week, we've been discussing about why there doesn't seem to be any movie stars anymore based on like Anthony Mackie's interview. And I was explaining it, and then there was Adam Conover video that also broke it down, which is like, it's not in the studio's best interests to have stars, because stars require more compensation. More compensation is more risk for them. It actually is better for them to have IP, which is like these universes that they just develop out. So, excuse me, at the height of the MCU, it didn't even matter who's going to be in the movie. We just knew, Civil War, we're going. Like, if Tom Holland wasn't part of that movie, I still would have gone. If Robert Downey Jr. somehow left the MCU, I still would have gone to watch Endgame, right? Even post his death, I still watched until eventually I was just like, there was fatigue started to set in. The whole point there is, if you've now, as Dan has clearly articulated, a style that took years to create and years to become valuable, almost overnight became so heavily commodified that all that value vanished in literally hours. What does that mean for the future of art? And there was even a discussion at the big end. Yes, if you're drinking at home, get a shot ready. Gonna bring it back to Drake and Kendrick. One of the reasons why I was so against tailor-made, and even I remember Dan had a tweet about this. And when Drake dropped, first it was Push-Ups and then Tailor-Made. Both of them, there were accusations of these songs being AI songs. And not even Tailor-Made, sorry, Push-Ups. If you listen to the reference, the original version that dropped in quote marks, there is some artifacting and aliasing that makes it sound like it's almost an AI reference. And he asked, what does it say about your art if we can't even tell if this song is original or AI? And that's the problem, right? If the people that control the means of production have their way, all art will be reduced to the lowest common denominator, which is commodified products. And commodified products are cheap to make, but have consistent output and consistent revenue. And that is bad for artists. It's bad for human society. It's bad for creatives. So we, as a society, there's obviously the legal side, which lawyers need to discuss and wrangle. And I'm not going to touch on that today because I don't think I'm qualified to touch on that. But I think as consumers and lovers and investors in art in some form or fashion, we need to ask ourselves some hard questions. It's like, what do I care or what do I value in the art created by humans? What am I trying to invest in? And if your answers don't point in the direction of new, novel, inventive art, then I guess commodified art is for you. And that's your decision. I'm not going to make a judgment on whether it's right or wrong. But it's worrying to me as someone who's in this space to see this happening. And it's not like I'm a Luddite by any form of fashion. I am. I think I use new tools. I understand them, but I also see where their value is and where the limits lie. I use AI the same way I would use. Well, I always describe AI as a very over eager, helpful assistant who lies a lot, and I treat it as such. I've got an assistant who's really keen on the job, really is willing to help, but that person lies. So every time they tell me something, I check and verify. But what does that mean for creatives? Or what does that mean for art? And I think we need to figure that out.
So I think my overall point here is I completely understand and to some extent share the very sad feelings that artists and some other people, including Phil, are expressing about how this is going to affect art. Listen to this statement that I thought was very profound as well. At first glance, you suddenly see masses celebrating Studio Ghibli style. Oh, cute. Most of them haven't even seen any of their movies. They don't need to. It's just a trend now. They are happy they have some content for the day. In just 24 hours, AI has made looking at Studio Ghibli style annoying. Let that sink in. The timeless craft of a legacy studio is annoying because of overconsumption in 24 hours. There is no consent from Studio Ghibli while ChatGPT shows off this new feature. If you're an artist with recognized style, just type your name, say make it in their style. You'll be shocked with how close it is getting to your style. If you are proud of your prompts, just remember anything you make with AI can be recreated within seconds. In most cases, people are getting impressed by AI. It's not you. Or in most cases, people are getting impressed by AI. It's not you. You are just an ad for the AI tool you are using. I know AI is not going anywhere, and sooner or later we will add some part of it into our process, but we need to take these companies to be accountable. We need tools that can help in crediting artists. We need copyright laws, and we need to understand the downfalls of creating so fast and overproduction. This is not a post saying ban AI. It's a post saying make AI more accountable.
Yep.
And I 100%.
That says what I was trying to say a lot more articulate,
Yes.
which is why I was like, yeah.
I 100% agree with this. AI is not going anywhere. It is useful, and we are at some point we're all going to be using it, whether we like it or not. It's going to be integrated into your tools. But what we must do is to put in place copyright laws and fair usage laws and whatever it is, so that it makes more sense for the companies to follow the laws, so that it doesn't make sense for underground or people to do it badly. It's going to take a lot of thought by people much cleverer than me. Maybe it will take a lot of thought from AI itself. There's a term called agentic AI, which refers to AI that works independently. It's not we haven't achieved it, but the idea is as AI gets better and better, at some point it's a more accurate term than general intelligence or AGI, artificial general intelligence. The idea is that at some point it's not going to need human input. It's going to be able to understand context from the world around it and make its own decisions and make its own input. You're no longer going to have to prompt it. Maybe you have
a great example of this is you buy a ticket online for a holiday, you get your airline booking, you get your hotel stay, you even maybe book your shuttle. Your agent is going through your emails and it figures out, oh, Dan's about to go on holiday based on all these cues. So it sends you, hey, I noticed you're about to go on holiday. Here's some sights and sounds you might want to see where you're going. Hey, you might want to leave for the airport at this time because it's raining and traffic is slowed down. So just a heads up, be ready for that.
Yeah. So that's a somewhat surface definition of agentic, but like when people talk about, when they speak about AI, it's this tool, this agent is your travel AI. Done. That's all. Then from there, it's going to look at context, look at weather, look at airlines, look at bookings, look at, okay, and then also you need to do this and da-da-da. So the idea is that it makes its own autonomous decisions, solve complex problems with its own initiative. We haven't achieved that yet, but at some point, I think that
I love how you say we, like you
as a human race.
You're also part of the development team.
As a human race. As a human race. That sentiment I mentioned earlier, I think is how I feel. That it's sad that these beautiful things, and oh, by the way, someone else took it even further and said, when future generations look in the past, they're going to be able to tell exactly which point in history culture stopped. Because no one is incentivized to create new, beautiful things.
Yep.
So at some point, all that's going to exist is only derivative of what we are. Because if I think that I want to, oh my goodness, I want to create this beautiful new style of animation, I could take 2 years trying to figure out how to make it. And I'm finally ready. I release it to the world. And someone says, oh yeah, make a film in the style of that person. And it's done. Might even be better than what I made. Why would I do that? Why would I invest so much time, efforts, resources into making new, beautiful things? So someone says in the timeline of history, you're going to be they'll be looking back and they'll be like, yep, 2025 is when it happened. From then on, it was slop. And that's possible. So, however, that being said, I think it's pointless to sit and say it shouldn't exist or to try and limit it from existing. I think the only thing that makes sense is to put in place fair compensation. Because if OpenAI is going to be a multi-billion-dollar company based on ingesting, no. A large chunk of that money needs to go. I don't know how they'll figure it out, but a large chunk of that money needs to go to the original makers.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing with even like derivative work or derivative fandom is laws were in place already where if you were to base when it was before it went into, let's say, open geez Louise, my brain is off. Before it went into open public domain, there we go. You could not write a book about a murder mystery and the main investigator would be someone called Sherlock Holmes, who happened to have a sidekick named Dr. Watson, who lived in London. Right? That would be a clear copyright violation. In the same way now. And the thing is, AI tools recognize this, but they recognize it selectively. So, for example, if you say, draw Mickey Mouse dunking a basketball on Daffy Duck in ChatGPT or in Google Gemini, it will say, it'll like, sometimes if you pay attention, it'll literally start generating and then it'll realize, oh snap, I'm in violation of the law. I gotta stop.
But let's say you said, draw an animated mouse similar to a very famous one that has existed over the years by a big mega corporation.
Yes, but once again, the thing is, by that, you are not committing IP theft. What you are doing is hacking prompts. You're prompt hacking to work around the guardrails that have been placed. And those guardrails are in place because they know we can't mess with Warner. Warner's lawyers don't play. We can't mess with Disney. Disney's lawyers don't play. The problem with Ghibli is Ghibli's lawyers are unknown to these entities. So they have not yet laid the hammer down. And that's the problem is, why is it a system where the offended party consistently has to be the one on the lookout, like, wait a minute, is my IP being violated? Oh, snap, it is. Let me enforce it. When on the creators, in an ideal scenario, I know that's not how the world works. I know that I know it's very idealistic, but ideally, you would want a situation where there are enough guardrails in ChatGPT, in Google Gemini, in DeepSeek, all of them, where, hey, what you're asking us to create requires a license from Disney, Warner, blah, 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 blah.
Enter your details.
You know what I mean? So, and that's the thing is like, it's the reason why I bring this up is it's not that the system currently works fine. I don't think it does, right? The system was created to protect the rich and powerful, copyright system. However, there's evidence that these tools, these very same AI companies understand how to create guardrails around it. They just selectively choose when to enforce them.
But Phil, our Ghibli picture was so cute. Oh.
And that is the problem that I have with some of this. It's like they know they're doing wrong. It's this move fast and break things mentality.
Yeah, I think the idea is that the companies need to be held to account. But the tools they're making are amazing. It's just they're trading on so many people on their way up, as it were, and that's not fair.
And that's the thing. And not only trading people up, it's like it's creating very concentrated wealth for a very small portion of people that's based on nothing that they've made.
Yep.
Like you guys have literally just created this massive vacuum machine and you're picking through the stuff you've stolen and you're valuing yourself off that, and that's all right.
And
If
we haven't even discussed just how bad this is for the environment. By the way, Sam Altman tweeted like, "Yo, it's very cool to see all your pictures. Just you're melting our graphics cards, so we're gonna have to put some rate limits there." Ha 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 ha. So it was available to everyone for free, but I think they put in some limits now. So free accounts can't. I think you can only generate 3 per day or something like that.
and so and here's a question. This also kind of proves my point. When they released this, they didn't realize that was going to happen. Like seriously, I genuinely don't, like you guys never thought.
I'm sure they expected that a lot of people would use it, but the virality that happened with the Ghibli thing,
they knew exactly what they're doing. All this, I believe, is calculated. I have zero. I do not rate Sam.
But
Altman
I
in
think
any
it
form or
went
fashion.
better than they expected. That's what I think. I think it went better than they expected. Anyway, if you do get a chance, I hate to encourage people to do this because I know what it does to the environment. So, don't overdo it. But like, don't use Ghibli. Use something else. That's like, do this in the style of a comic book, for example. Say that. And then you're not violating anyone's direct IP. Also, you can just do it. Phil, let's wrap this up. This was supposed to be a 1-2 punch real quick. I want to wrap this up by doing a quick review.
I showed you did the 1-2 punch comic anime.
I want to do this. I want to wrap it up by doing a quick review of the Roots event I went to. So if you're wondering what that is, Samuel Cosmic, I think, is the man behind it. He put together this Afro-tech event that happens every now and again. It's called Roots, and his special guest at this last one was Night Freak. So I went there with the missus, and we had a grand old time. It was good. I have to give props to Samuel Cosmic. Some quick things to mention. Yo, Bam Bam Madame were, dude, they were really dope. It was really good. I was like, yo, these white girls are cooking. Shout out to them, man. I really enjoyed their set. They were playing. It just fit. You know what I'm saying? It just fit.
Yeah.
Samuel Cosmic obviously was incredible. Night Freak, standard. Yeah, it's standard. It was a really good vibe, I have to say, and the people there were having a good time. It felt good. It was a good vibe. Really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you see Samuel Cosmic put up his next show, Roots, go for it. And I would also recommend, like, I think Bam Bam Madame have their own event that they call Chapel or something like that. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, man. Dope. While I was away, I also did a couple of events. Shout out to Capital's Hip Hop Floor. That was insane. Passed through Strictly Soul at La Parada. You know what? I think I even shared it in the group because I was so taken aback. So I've spoken to Akio for many a year. Shout out to Akio. Akio used to be Reason's manager about a decade ago. Reason, when I first met him, I gave him some merch. Reason was nice enough to wear that merch on stage when he was opening up for Get Your Drinking Cups Ready, Kendrick Lamar. So I'll always have a special place in my heart for those guys. So yeah, I passed through Strictly Soul, and it was at La Parada Rosebank. Jeez Louise. It was like sardines in there. It was packed, but great vibe, great selection. So nothing but R&B, great energy, great vibe. Doechii is gone.
Yeah, out of here.
There was a time he started playing Anxiety, the whole club went up, bruh. It was insane. That was dope.
Was everyone doing the
dance?
Will Smith and Ashley dance?
Everyone was doing the dance. So even if you go to Akio's Instagram, I think he posted like a short snippet of it. I think I got some video of it as well. It was insane. The other funny thing is, like, he played Nokia, and it rang off. And I was like, you know what? If this guy just shut up and released music, he would have been okay. He would have been fine. So
also shout out to Phil for saying Nokia. They are trying to stamp out the Zimbabwean in you, eh? It's not a Nokia 3310, Phil. There's no Nokia 3310. Get out of here.
Oh, what is it?
Nokia. Yeah.
No, I've always said it. Where else did I go? Hey, I was out so many places. Shout out to Lerato, who just launched his Just Piano thing. I'll shout out to Mel because she just sent the email about Doechii. Doechii's coming to South Africa. Please, guys, I want to avoid the jokes, but her father, please don't embarrass. Please don't embarrass.
Why?
Please don't embarrass.
Whose father?
Huh?
Whose father?
Doji's father. You know, Doji's father is like a famous South African who's a deadbeat, and she's spoken
not-
about the trauma.
You're talking about Doja.
Oh, sorry, Doja
Yeah.
Cat. Doja Cat's coming for. Hey.
Yeah, I was about to say Doji's coming to
Speaking
SA.
So speaking of, dude, have you seen the live? So, by the way, I actually the day off, I was we had to go to we had to work, but we also almost went to Thames. But after seeing the videos, I'm like, it's a good thing I missed it because it looked packed like a mofo in there. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot happening, man.
SA Mawan, Travis Scott, Doja Cat, later in the year, Summer Walker. Guys, Mawan 1,000.
Yeah.
More 1,000. Sure, I'm sure we'll get some of them to come over this
only
weekend.
only Mbinga tier members will be getting tickets to those events. That's all I'm saying it now. If you're not a Mbinga tier member, don't ask us. We're not getting you tickets.
All right, listen. I was gonna speak a little bit about this Avengers Doomsday announcement for Marvel, but we'll have to do it in the next episode.
Or maybe we do it with the patrons.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes it's also nice to give others a chance. But listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Two Broke Twimbos. This one's coming in a little bit later than usual. Sorry, but we are here. We'll put something nice on the end for you to enjoy listening to. And
the new Will Smith album just dropped. I was listening to that.
it won't be the new Will Smith that we'll put. So
Sure.
I can guarantee that. Yeah, and I mean, and we'll also talk a little bit about some TV stuff as well, because there's a crazy story about this Snow White movie and Rachel Zegler and that the IDF soldier there and all of that. So there's a lot.
Wait, what's the story? Wait. Bring me up to speed in case I'm unfamiliar.
It is not going well. In fact, according to IMDb, it's the worst movie of all time.
Wait, so what's the crazy story?
Basically the story is many people are very upset with the movie because of Gal Gadot's terrible performance. I haven't watched the movie, but I assume it's the same as all the other performances. She's got a pretty face, but that's about it. And the fact, obviously, that she's a former Israeli soldier and very, pro-Zionist, etc., etc. Rachel Zegler, who's the star of the movie, is a somewhat woman of color, speaks out in support of Palestine, and yeah, so there's let's say there's a lot of fight between two sides, and the fight is what made this movie so bad. Was it Gal Gadot? Was it Rachel Zegler? And that's a crazy story. If I was going to get into it, I was going to highlight some of the different stories behind both sides. But first of all, I didn't prepare that. Second of all, we had time up. So yeah, and I kind of feel bad for Rachel Wacho, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
All right, so we'll drop something on the end of this podcast. Thanks very much for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one. We're going to get out of here now. Thanks very much, guys. twobroketwimbos.com/donate to support. Subscribe to be a Patreon member. Only $5 per month to be at the bottom tier. But you can improve your relationships with us by increasing your tiers. And also it helps us also to pay for some of the tools that we were discussing before we started recording. We need to get on to. So we'll catch you in the next one. We out.
ngena ngehloka nongiza umadlela costa iwani yesibili uzoyidweba wine basothi njalo mangena phela ngenisabi imlilo yamaphepha umlilo wena ungawumela ngafika belele ngavele ngawuthela they said I couldn't ngafika ngangena jwale bankithi kaspiti kuyafetha ngibenzela inhlola like abracadabra I pray on these rappers like I am a panther African Marvel but not from Uganda I am the only there won't be another I am invincible I got the power I cannot bother ngalawa mafaka badlalela kude ngoba basaba ngeke balunge I am an alpha yeah dangerous kill him fuck uhas fuck isaka sebenzi turn up the heat pula sekele night was dangerous kill him yeah I'm no ice queen but I'm icy I like nice things Brenda Fassie yeah ngihleli inkonzo